Hang on, we turn on this and this. We're live.
Welcome, everybody. I'm calling to order the Bond Oversight Committee for April 23rd, 2026. My name is Linda Nishioka, Counselor for Ward 2, and will be serving as presiding officer for this meeting. Would our other members that are here please introduce themselves?
Mike Herron, community member. Bob Courtright, community member.
And that concludes the members. So we will now go with a quick go around of staff that are present for the meeting.
Morning, Dave Gerbeau, fire chief.
Good morning, Brian Carrera, assistant fire chief.
Good morning, Ricardo Besserell at Compass Project Solutions. Rob Laney, Public Information Officer for City Manager's Office.
Courtney Knox-Bush, Assistant City Manager, Director for Strategy and Engagement.
Brian Martin, Public Works Director. Alan Dan, City Engineer.
Aaron Kimsey, Assistant City Engineer.
Josh Eggleston, Chief Financial Officer.
Relationship Management Analyst.
All right, thank you, everyone. All right, those members that are sitting next to me, we need to approve the minutes from the last meeting, March 23rd. Does anyone want?
So moved.
So moved.
Second.
All right, moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
All right. The meeting from March 26th is passed. We don't have anyone signed up for public comment, so we get right to action items. Wow, boom, 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 we're going. So Civic Center, Aaron, you're up.
Great, thank you. Slides to come up. With anybody online?
No,
It
there's
looks like
nobody. Choose what app to zoom in.
Just put the entire screen.
Entire screen. Oh, I have to click this. Oh, there we go. That's good. Hang on.
I'm glad somebody knows how to.
I don't. Is this right, Josh?
Share.
I did, didn't I?
No, the PowerPoint.
Oh. This? I'm gonna let you do this. I'm getting too stressed. This is stressing me out. Oh, I just have to hit start?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Okay. Oh, I'm in charge of this now?
Yeah,
All right, oh goodness. Sure. All right,
man in charge.
this is just a cover title to remind us why we're here. All right, so before we get into the real reason why I'm here, I wanted to give you guys a brief update on the overall bond spending status. And so as just as a reminder, we sold our first $100 million bond sale back in February 2023. We've been moving forward with those projects within that 100 million. And we just recently, if you hadn't heard, we just recently sold our second issuance of 100 million in April this month. And so as far as where we are on overall spending, we've got this nice pie chart here. So a little over 21% of the projects are either in the bidding stage or construction phase of the project of that project. So 64.8 million are currently kind of in progress. And then we have roughly 12.4% projects that are complete. So another 37, we'll call it 37.3 million projects that are complete. And so we still have 2/3, 66% of the projects that are remaining, just under 200 million that are left to either start or they'll be part of that third issuance. All right, this slide represents where we are for a bond premium and interest, and I'll have Josh take this away.
Yeah, so it's been a while since we looked at this. It might have been last year, I think. So we're continuing to update it. You can see fiscal year 2023 when we issued the first tranche, first 100 million. You see the premium come in. There under bond premium. Interest is interest earnings. So while the money is not being used for projects, it's being invested in its own dedicated portfolio. So we receive interest earnings on those dollars. So you can see that revenue come in. Below that, you have expenses. So transfers to support projects. So when you actually approve of a premium use, we actually transfer it out of this cost center into the project category. Then administrative issuance costs. So those are CIP, or bond administration as well as issuance costs, which is why you see a larger amount initially, so bond issuance costs. And then again in 26, you see a large issuance cost there. Which leads us to the ending working capital. Fiscal year 2026 is just through, I think I did through March, plus the bond premium we received on the last issuance. So we'll continue to earn interest earnings through the balance of the fiscal year on these dollars also. But just wanted to show you an updated picture of where we're at with bond premium interest, 16.6 million. And again, you guys made a policy recommendation, I think, at your last meeting for how to use these. That hasn't gone to council yet. So we're kind of jumping down a little bit just with this Civic Center project. But how we're treating this with the dollar amount we're asking for aligns with that policy, even though it hasn't gone to council.
Will you be asking us to make a motion for it to go to council?
Yes,
But, okay, so that's good to know.
for this request, yes.
All right, I can imagine you.
Yes.
You would.
Yeah.
Any questions?
Just a quick question, and you may have covered this last month, is the bond premium this time was substantially less than half of what we got first time. But can you remind me what that was? Just,
Yeah, so we get a lot of bids. So we actually got 13 bids both times. And it just depends how they structure the deal. So in the first case, we had a lower coupon rate for the bonds, but a higher premium. In this case, we got a little bit higher interest and less premium. So it just depends on how it's
so
structured.
the market just wasn't as positive this time around.
Wasn't as positive, and the lowest cost. So what we're trying to do is maximize the dollar amount versus the interest cost. This was the lower tick or true interest cost of the bids for the bonds. There were other bids that had a higher premium, but the interest was higher. So this one is the best overall deal for the city and the residents.
Great.
Was there any change in the city's bond rating between the first tranche and second tranche? Okay.
No, please, it's at AA2.
So that was good.
Yeah.
And quite honestly, last meeting, they were talking about how they were like waiting and seeing, and that it actually turned out to be, with this economic environment, sounds like it was a pretty wise and gleeful bond sale that we had.
It was pretty volatile leading up, and it stayed pretty volatile. So I'm glad we just went ahead and did the deal. But when we were going for the sale, there was talk of actual ground troops in Iran and things like that. So just a lot of turmoil. So I think it was good that we went ahead and sold the bonds. So the market hasn't gotten better after that.
Any other questions? I have a question that's back on that first slide, and again, I'm needing to kind of have a little bit of history on when we is this about where we would be at this point in the bond, the 10-year bond, or is this over? Like I don't know how to compare it to any past bond. At year, 4 are we, we're heading into 4. I'm just curious as to where we are.
It's structured quite a bit differently than other bonds just because previously they were single issue. So, I mean, what gives me some confidence about where we're at is if you add the blue and orange together, you're about a third.
Third, yeah.
100 million is under contract or done. And then we just issued the next 100 million. So we're ready for that next third. So I think where we're at is right
about where we need to be. Okay.
I think for the first couple of years, we were probably on the slower side, and then definitely have some bigger projects hitting construction, the dollars are going out the door faster.
And being on that slower side initially was, I think there weren't as many bids coming in. I think there was not a ton of things happening. It seemed like there was an environment that was not real.
Well, and just a lot of design and preparation
Yeah.
for some of those bigger projects. Yeah.
All right.
But I think, I think from here on out, I think we'll continue to have those larger projects turning for the balance of the 10-year period.
Yeah, that's right. And I guess I would add on what you're saying is we're seeing a lot more bidders now than we were before. So,
Yeah. I think that's why it feels like things have sort of blossomed a bit, and as far as bids and moving forward and people being ready to do the work, it seems.
Do you have another copy of the packet? I'm feeling jealous. No, you didn't. Oh, I did.
Thank you for that, answering that question.
Okay, so as we dive into the Civic Center project and why I'm here today, as a reminder, we set project goals for this project back when we had our pre-design and we were kind of ramping up to get this project out the door. And our number one priority, as you guys may recall, is to have a resilient, safe, and sustainable building. And so that's really the crux of the bond project, is to create resilient and safe buildings that we can move back into. And so that kind of stems.
And one people can get out of.
And when people can get out of, yeah, and be in the building safely. Also, as a reminder, as I've indicated and probably on past updates, we do have a project contingency for this project, and this is pretty typical on all our projects. And it's just essentially to cover the unknowns that we're not able to understand at the time of design and or bid. And so a project this size has a pretty substantial contingency. And as you can see, as we've gone through the project, we have committed roughly $800,000 to some of those issues that we've uncovered as we've been working through the project. I will say that we've uncovered a new issue that is outside of the scope of the project, the initial project scope. And unfortunately, due to the cost impact, it can't be covered by the contingency that we have on the project. So kind of goes without saying, but we have a 50-year-old building. Obviously it was built in 1972. And so many of the systems are at or near the end of life. They're exceeding their service life. And due to the limited funds that we had when we were prioritizing this project, we had to make some difficult decisions on which improvements we made, which improvements ultimately didn't get included in the project. And so we were pretty careful about what moved forward and what didn't. And so in fact, some of those decisions came to this steering committee group when we were prioritizing where to spend those dollars. Unfortunately, what we found as we've gotten into construction and kind of uncovered a lot of the space inside the building, we've uncovered that we have an electrical grounding deficiency that is essentially an unsafe situation that we have. This is just a high level diagram with the electrical layout. And really what I wanted to just focus on here is the red panels are panels that aren't grounded in any way. And so obviously that's unsafe. We do have some green panels that have had prior work in the past, and so they are actually okay. But then we have a lot of yellow panels that on the surface, they appear to be grounded sufficiently, but as we've gotten more in depth, we've uncovered that they're actually not to code, and they don't provide the safety that we normally would have in a building like this. And so this is just kind of another breakdown of that situation. We've got our nice figure here, stick figure guy. He's getting shocked. And so this is the new discovery. We didn't know we had the situation where portions of the building were unsafe. And we did know, again, at the time, because this is an old building, we knew that some of the panels are at the end of their service life, some of the breakers are at the end of their service life, just the main panel of the system in general. But we've been able to, over the years with facilities help, we've been able to maintain those services and keep the building running. However, with this new discovery of the grounding deficiency, we're not able to address that issue without addressing the whole electrical system. And so our recommendation that we're bringing forward to you all today is that we get approval to make these improvements so that at the end of the day, we'll have a safe building that can operate efficiently moving forward. And so with that, in order to make those improvements, we're looking at upgrades to the electrical system that meet the grounding code requirements. We're looking at replacing code deficient branch and circuit panel boards, and we're looking at replacing distribution switchboards that are at the end of their life. So total for that is 1.7 million. I will say that when we first started this project, there was a lot of uncertainty with tariffs, and so we allowed the contractor to carry $250,000 towards essentially a tariff allowance as a backboard in case any of the items that we were trying to order on the project got more expensive. We're happy to report that we actually only used about $7,000 of that allowance, and we're at a point in the project where we can safely release those funds back to the city for our use. And so we're recommending that we would put that $243,000 towards this effort to make the total premium ask at 1.5 million. Any questions?
Go.
I'm wondering if you can give us kind of big picture on the budget for this project, how this relates to that. And this is the contingency commitments to date. Is the rest of the contingency fully subscribed? And where are we at? Are we expecting any more surprises?
Yes.
Expecting surprises.
Yeah, so I would say that, let me go back to that slide. We kind of are exactly where we would think we would be for our contingency use for the project today. I think we had, was it
About 1.7 million. So we spent 800 of it, so we have about 920 remaining, and we do a risk calculation matrix based on the work in progress that's been completed on the project to kind of track where we should be at. So as work progresses, risk is eroded, so we should be able to free up contingency, and that matrix tells us that we should have freed up about 800,000 of contingency, but as Aaron indicated, we spent that in these categories of items that are up on the screen.
Yeah, so I mean, the good news is we are getting out of some of the more riskier parts of the work, but we still have, almost a year of construction. So there is still an opportunity to uncover surprises that we're not aware of.
Aaron and Ricardo, I wonder if you want to describe where the majority of the risk in the project and how, so the demo is, would you like to just walk through the risk calculus?
This goes to the question that I asked you when we did our walkthrough about how you allocate risk throughout the life of the project. So that would be,
I think it would be useful.
Yeah. So we essentially broke the project into like 4 or 5 categories. First one being demo. This is not necessarily in order, but we had demo as part of that risk factor, excavation for the footings, kind of the structural elements, the structural seismic work was a phase. We have the interior space has a certain risk factor.
And mechanical, electrical, plumbing systems was the 5th one.
Yeah. So as we're progressing with that work, so we've completed the excavation, we've completed the demolition. So some of those things like abatement and demo that took a hit when we were doing some of that work. The restrooms and architectural issues were essentially just design issues as we were moving through the project. We are not 100% complete with the structure yet, but we're getting really close. And so we essentially assigned a risk factor to those phases, and then a kind of a dollar amount to that risk. And so as it gets completed, Ricardo said, that risk, it's a tool. It's not perfect, but it gives us an idea of again how much of that contingency we can release as we move forward in the project.
Through the riskiest aspects is the message.
But I think the good news is, you know, we have the appropriate amount of contingency left for the balance of the project. And I'll apologize, because originally they had a very complex slide with all these calculations on it. We pulled it off because it was like, oh yeah, too much detail, but it wasn't.
Yeah, I mean, I would say that because of where we are in the project, we don't feel comfortable releasing that contingency to cover some of this effort. Because if we do that, then we're vulnerable to future risks that are still on the project. And so our ask is to kind of keep this ask separate from the existing project contingency.
And I would just add also that if there's contingency left at the end of the project, it'll just go back to replace the premium. So it's not lost, it's just going back to the credit to the premium.
Would come back to the bond committee, would come back.
Yeah.
Come back.
Reimburse the premium.
So remind me if I know that we had some concerns with the roof, how it was, and is that part of the abatement and demolition? Or was that drainage? The roof, you know, like all of the work that was done for the roof. I'm just curious where, because I know that added to costs.
Yeah, well, we have ongoing roof drainage issues that we're still working through that will come out of our project contingency.
Okay, so it's
We're still working through those issues. But the abatement, the issues that we have with the abatement are resolved. Yeah.
this has, and again, I almost apologize ahead of time. But we already know that we're not going to be able to do much with Peace Plaza, and that what had been promised we'd be able to do is not even there. Maybe a quarter of it might be there, but that will just be, so that will be a whole nother issue that we might need to discuss once the actual construction is over.
Yeah, yes, but potentially, again, back to what Brian said, if we do have, whether it's part of this, I wouldn't say that this 1.5 million would go towards Peace Plaza without asking, but certainly any contingency that is already allocated for the project isn't used could go towards Peace Plaza.
So my fingers still are crossed then.
Yeah.
All right. Okay, any other questions?
Procedurally, like, we're looking for a motion to recommend to city council to vote on.
Right.
I think we don't have to vote on 1.5 thing here.
No, you're,
You have, well, I mean, we do.
Yeah,
That's my point.
as a recommendation to the city.
Yeah, the goal would be that I would draft a staff report, include your all's recommendation to move forward in that, and then ultimately go to council for approval. That would be the first meeting in May.
So we need to get it done tonight.
We're planning file 11 for that.
We're really trying to avoid any schedule impacts with this change, so we want to try to keep it.
Yes, that's not to get into the weeds too much, but this is a pretty significant item. You always want to find these kinds of things early in the project, but we're not too late, so that's good. We're hearing some good things from the contractor that they're going to be able to complete the design and the procurement of the materials. And that, as we sit here today, it looks like we're going to be able to complete this without any extensions to the project. However,
You write that down.
yeah, I just want to say, however, with all the things that are happening in the world, we just never know what delivery timelines or material issues might come about. So, we obviously reserve the right to have those delays if they do come about. Good news is that the materials that we're actually ordering are from the US. So that's really good news. They're not coming from China or some other part of the world.
Travel across the sea somewhere, so it's good.
Or go through.
Go through a certain source.
Yeah, go through a street.
No known blockades today.
May I ask then another question? Because I'm hearing that we're hoping that we complete on time. That leads me to wonder if we need to extend our stay here and other facilities that we're needing to lease. Where did the funds come from for that?
Yeah.
Potential?
So we're hopeful to not do that. That's the hope, because we're already pretty tight, I think, just on the lease costs. This building and the Broadway building, if we needed to extend, the majority of the funding is general fund, so we have to go to ask for dollars to extend.
I need to make this motion. I don't know what council will do.
Yeah, so I have two more questions. One is, maybe this is just to get it in the record as a question, because if I was on council, I would ask, because they're not sitting in this room all the time, is, what, if anything, are we giving up in other projects by shifting this money into this project? If you can answer that. And the second question is, who drew the stick person?
Why there aren't more?
There's a issue with perspective.
Mhm. I agree with that.
You were part of
Yeah,
Definitely wasn't an engineer.
to your first question, I think, we're still pretty early in the bond program, so it's actually pretty challenging to answer the question. We're seeing pretty extreme cost pressures on, I would say probably the fire station is the most pressure we're seeing. Yeah, likely we can, with the current budget, we can fund one of the stations. So that's probably, part of this trade-off conversation. Other categories are coming in fairly even. That's the one where I see the most balance. And I appreciate the fact that we can't like say, well, it's this project, this project, this project. I just like an additional 1.5. People are gonna be like, well, wait, what?
Yeah.
What are we not doing now?
There's a cash flow report a little bit later in the agenda that gets to some of that and shows the projects that have finished and what we're showing for savings. But as Josh points out, we've got a lot of the portfolio to go.
Yep.
That'll give you an idea of the trend. I don't know if you can flip back to the premium page too.
Yeah, and that is also what I was going to ask, if you could give us an idea of how much this will drain the savings or.
Yeah, so our total number there is about 16.5 worth of capital right now, if Josh charted correctly. So there'd still be a substantial amount left even after this money.
Well, I think, we've allocated some premium to this project prior, I think it was about $1 million. And one way I've thought about it is, it's about 1/6 of the total 300 million, maybe a little bit less. We're still within that proportion. If you were to just say, okay, everyone's getting the same percentage of the bond premium interest allocated to the project, we're still within the Civic Center's share of that premium cost. That's not how it's going to work logistically, because other projects are going to have additional needs or grants or things like that. But it still feels fairly reasonable just from that high level perspective.
I don't want to jinx it, but if I had to pick the riskiest project in the portfolio, this would be at the top.
Because it's retro and you're having surprises, whereas the others have been proven to be potentially overestimated, and then when bids came in, looked good. So that's thank you for sharing that, because that's how I'm seeing it. But I just wanted to also understand, and thank you, Mike, for that question, because council will want to understand this. And when you're not in these meetings and have perspective, so I think whoever will be coming to make the ask should be really ready to help explain that the interest in earnings and the percentage of this is all, still within an appropriate scope, because they will ask. Yes.
I think what we were just talking about is really helpful. That is the amount of contingency that we're awarding or premium that we're awarding to this project is not in excess of its proportion of the total bond sales. And I guess, is that assuming that there are no more increases, or?
I think that's through now even, so it's probably even conservative given that we'd likely see more.
I think that's just really helpful to know that this is proportional or to scale with the nature of this project compared to the others that are on. Not that it's a guarantee, but it's helpful.
And it may, and again, just preparing for the council meeting, might be better to have more numbers than fewer, in the sense that you can explain them so that it's not feeling like something is not being brought forward. Does that sound good?
Well, I'll make a motion. Moving for a motion. I move that we recommend that the city council approve the additional funding request of 1.5 million. Right, is that the correct number?
Yeah.
And it's 1.5 million for the electrical service at the
Civic.
civic center.
Second.
Right, it's been moved and seconded. There's all three of us. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion passes, and you guys get ready for the first meeting. Thank you.
Thank you.
Why do I keep getting this mouse handed back? I don't know, this darn mouse. Okay. Yes.
Now we have fighting for things you need, right?
Okay. I'm just gonna redo this because I'm paranoid. Your screen. Share. This. I do.
Look at
This.
how quick you learned.
You know, here we go. Would you like to drive? Okay, you're gonna drive, okay.
You drive for me.
I don't know. I don't trust myself. Here you go.
It's not a fire truck.
Well,
So.
you one of those. I'll have a great time.
Thank you for having us today. Chief Pereira will go over the presentation, but this is for our rapid intervention team equipment. It's one of the most important pieces of equipment for firefighter and community safety. So go ahead, Ryan.
So we're here to ask about a rig bag replacement. This upgrade focuses on improving firefighter safety, reducing physical strain on our crews, increasing our effectiveness during rapid intervention operations. The goal is pretty simple. When a firefighter goes down, we respond faster and more efficiently, and this is what we're talking about today. So the current challenges, the 1 hour bottles that we currently carry are very heavy and they're difficult to maneuver in tight spaces, and especially in complex environments. It slows down our deployment when time matters. When we have a brother or sister go down, we want to be able to get in there and get them out as quickly as possible. And also the heavy bags we currently carry also increase fatigue, impacts performance during extended incidents. And on top of that, the bottles are set to expire next year. So we're needing to act now. The recommendation is to move to what we call the quick attack red bags, which are a 45-minute bottle. We currently carry 1 hour bottles. They're high pressure cylinders. The setup is lighter, more compact, and designed specifically for rapid deployment and intervention. We maintain full operational capability, but we gain speed, mobility, and efficiency when it counts. The system is built for rapid intervention. The bag itself, as says, is compact, easy to handle. Our current bags are not. If you've ever been put on 45 to 60 pounds of gear and tried to drag a chainsaw as well as an additional weight with you, and then when a person goes down, it's really hard to get them out of the building. And that added weight, even if you talk about 10 pounds, is hard, and it's hard on our crews. The 45-minute cylinder provides sufficient air that we need, even though it's a reduction from 1 hour to 45, and it reduces the weight. Overall, the design allows crews to deploy quickly and move through the confined spaces much more effectively. With this upgrade, as I said, the crew move faster, the lighter weight reduces the fatigue, which helps maintain performance during longer operations. This streamlines our design. The streamlined design is to cut down the setup time, and it always reaches down to the firefighters to act much more quicker. All this improves our overall effectiveness during these critical incidents on scene. Well, we're really talking about safety. The faster access to air for a downed firefighter reduces the risk of serious injury or worse. The equipment is easier to handle under stress, which matters in high pressure situations. I would hate that in my 21 years here, we've never had to deploy these, and I hope that we don't ever do, but reduce that fatigue and our people and being able to get our people out of the dangerous environments faster is critical. The cost summary is very simple. It's roughly for the 8 units, it's $28,000. For the 10 45-minute bottles, it's roughly just under $20,000, total of $48,000 for estimated cost. Get those costs on a contract that's already set up through our current vendor. And overall, the recommendation is to allow us to move forward and spend these funds, the overall bond funds, to be able to buy this equipment, to be able to keep up with industry and make sure we're operational ready to deploy faster when time is needed.
Was that one, where this came from? So there's OSHA legislation that requires anytime we enter a environment that's immediately dangerous to life or health, which a structure fire is, we have to have 2 people in, we have to go in pairs, we have to have 2 people outside ready to perform rescue at any time. And this equipment is part of that rescue team, that rapid intervention team. It's both firefighters and
And I know that 10 pounds does not seem like a lot. It does not seem like a lot, big reduction, but when you're carrying all that gear and you're having to drag your brother or sister out of the building, that 10 pounds matters.
well, and the 1-hour bottles are coming up on expiration of the ball anyway. They have to be replaced.
That's it.
I just, first of all, thank you. I always love when you guys come in and like explain more of what you do and the stuff that you use to do it. I have a technical question, which is like my favorite kind, and that's probably for Josh. And this is not a statement or anything about the need or anything like that. I'm just curious so the bond, right, for capital projects, and I understand equipment can fall into that, like the trucks, right? The very first thing we did was buy a fire truck. Does everything fall into that equipment category? I mean,
this has to be a capital cost, right? So for the city, that's over $10,000 in a useful life of more than 1 year, that would be eligible. And it specifically falls into the fire equipment bucket of the bond. So I actually had a request for parks for some equipment. I was like, it's not even eligible because we don't list parks equipment, we list fire equipment. So it's kind of this pretty narrow category that would allow this capital cost to qualify.
okay, and follow up to that is I'm recalling, I can't believe that we're in our 4th year. I think it was in the first year. There was a request, and I think this question came up, right? You're nodding your head. Do you remember? It had something to do with venting in the bays.
In the stations.
Yes. And the same question came up, I thought and this is my recollection again, almost 4 years ago, I guess. The question was, does that fit into the category of what we sort of said we were spending on?
Yeah, so the ballot language, some of those categories are a little more broad. This one is extremely narrow, fire equipment, capital costs. There's a statement in the ballot language for city maintenance or construction or repair of city facilities, which is why some of these other things are allowable costs, even though they weren't particularly contemplated in bonds.
I was just gonna offer, at the time, I think also it was so early that there was concerns about, we don't have a premium policy yet, we don't know where everything's gonna land, some members were like, can we just put this on the general fund and just have the general fund pay this first? So there was a little bit of that tension as well, I think, if I'm recalling.
Yeah, and actually the council did approve it, so the bond oversight committee did not recommend it.
Right.
When it got to city council, with the ask for general fund, they decided.
Put it back on the bond.
Yeah.
Yeah, we actually managed it fairly well. Myself and my team have done a pretty good job. We were allotted $26 million on the equipment side, and we've spent almost 26 million. We have 98.3% of overall budget spent. So we have about $425,000 left at the end of the day. So we're at the tail end of it. We're almost done. Yeah.
No, the question popped into my head because I know we've had this sort of discussion around other things. And again, it's not a comment on need or anything like that.
Well, there's certainly a consideration, right, for allowable versus, politically wise, right? So you certainly wouldn't want to go, way outside, hey, let's do this crazy thing that doesn't fit anywhere, but is technically allowed, right? So, I mean, this to me feels like it would have been included if it had been, available at the time, 4 years ago.
I'm curious where we're at. I'm jumping ahead to the summary of where we're at, and it shows, $26 million for fire equipment expenditures to date of 24.5 and 1.4 left. So Where are we at?
Available today, it's 25,575,000.
Yeah,
This is in
331, 26.
So the last couple of years.
Well, let me continue with the question, kind of where are we at in terms of the remaining expenses that we make for equipment?
With the equipment ask and the nozzles that we just purchased, we're gonna spend if we get approved $100,000. So we carried over the remaining 375,000 to next year because we're still updating some of our Lewis rigs. So I expect to expend that money next FY.
All of our apparatus have been secured and paid for. And now we're doing the equipment side of outfitting all those pieces of equipment.
I guess this is the same sort of question for me that we were having
Earlier.
when we were interrogating about Civic Center is where are we at in terms of, I mean, are we gonna be on budget for completing everything we need, or are there other?
And it looks like we're slightly under budget, and I think that's good news because we can shift it over to the fire station.
Yeah, that's, and yeah, sorry if I wasn't clear. So all the expenditures of the vehicles or fleet recapitalization is done. The vehicles are paid for, they're here. And we're currently outfitting those with equipment. And so the remainder of that is gonna, there'll be more just either equipment ask or roll over to fire station costs in the future.
We will not spend more than $26 million on equipment. So that's,
that.
yes, I know. No, we've got, and Josh and his team and myself and my team work very well together and to make sure that we do not overspend. So.
Bob said, is your question getting answered? I think they're trying to reassure you that there won't be more.
That's helpful, yes.
I have a question for you. And help me understand this equipment when I see 8 units, and that you have 10 cylinders. So these are sitting in the vehicles and then used when necessary.
Yeah, we carry them on the ladder trucks and we carry them on our air rigs because they typically only go on fires or first alarm or second alarm or greater. And so the 8 bags are carried, plus you have backup bags because they do break. So when they do break, you have to have backup to be able to provide that.
And so that brings me to continue on the question, that you have cylinders. Do those cylinders get refilled and reused? Is that what the intent is?
Yes.
And so what is the expected life of those? Because you're talking about the ones you have are reaching a
10 years now.
10 years.
Yes, ma'am.
And so with ones that break and potentially you need to have replaced, are you already looking at what the likelihood is that you're going to need to replace 4 of them in the next year?
They don't break like that. They
Okay.
may be repaired or they need to be tested and all that, but they
don't need to be
It's
replaced.
not like that. These bottles are pretty heavy duty unless we damage them. And I mean, I've never seen one break like that, Chief.
And do you
Yeah. Yeah.
feel that you're actually short? I mean, or is the 8 that you're asking for enough?
That's funny. The fire chief and I just talked about right when we came in the room. No, I do believe because we have 5 rigs that we actively carry them on. And then you have the 3 for the contingency. So no, I think the 8 is enough.
Let's see, what was something about? So they're on the ladder trucks, you said?
Ladder trucks and air rigs, yeah.
And there. But the last question I have is, when I attended the fire foundation, I know that you spoke about equipment and I was thinking it was this.
No, yeah.
What was it that you were then seeking funding for?
You're talking about last year, you're talking about the breakfast?
Yeah,
May 7th, by the way, so May 7th, 7:30 in the morning, if you'd like to attend the Fire Foundation breakfast this year. It'll be at the Heritage Center, but get online, get your tickets. If you'd like to sponsor Vips Industries, we can talk afterwards. But our main campaign is gonna be what we call a bailout kit, and that is trapped above ground that you're able to exit safely out of a building rapidly. And so that is going to be our kickoff campaign is going to be for that. I will say in the past year, we've secured over $150,000 in donations that have gone to essential life-saving and mandatory equipment, knowing that we are, have budget constraints. And so we have actively seeked out donations and have received some for just recently, wildland equipment, new helmets, new hose. So we're not just looking at these sole funding options.
Yeah, seems like when I was there last year, there was something that was going to be on the truck, and I just was wondering if it was this or something else.
Excuse me.
Thank you.
I have a question, a couple follow-ups here. So this is being driven by a change in OSHA rules. Are there any sort of, like, when OSHA makes a change like that, any sort of state grants, any kind of grant programs that help departments upgrade equipment to meet?
Generally, most of it is unfunded mandates, but we are trying to find some grant opportunities. We're certainly seeking those. We did get a $50,000 grant earlier this year for the equipment we're talking about. So we definitely are seeking those out for sure. This is a combination of the OSHA rules have been in place for a while. I was just trying to explain what the intent was on why we have them. These old models are expiring, so it comes up to that 10-year, and then the operational effectiveness of maneuverability. Our bags are really big now. It's small now, especially when we're never in a clean environment like this. Usually it's very cramped conditions, often hoarding conditions, and trying to move equipment around with personnel. It just makes us more operationally effective.
I'm gonna ask another question. Do you have your own large tanks that you refill yourself, or do
We
they
have a
come?
cascade system, man.
You have,
yeah.
I'm sorry, what?
It's called a cascade system, where it refills our air on our own. We do it
Okay,
on every fire when we there. When the air rigs we bring to the scene also do it, so we can transport the apparatus to our scene and we fill them up there as well. So plus we have.
so you have so basically you would just have oxygen. You don't have, I mean, but you've got those tanks to refill at your stations.
Yep, it's just for good old plain air, not oxygen. Oxygen we've had in fires.
Okay, so you don't.
Clean air.
Yeah, just clean air. Oxygen might blow us out.
Yeah. Okay. Questions to, oh wait. Did you have another one?
I was agreeing with you. I answered my questions.
And we need to make a motion.
And it's, in this case, it's not the city council, it fits within the category, so what we're trying to do is just make sure the bond oversight committee is okay with it, so.
Yeah, and this is also under the amount that needs to go, so.
May I make a friendly amendment? Can we make it a round number? So it's like 60? Do we care? You don't care, do you?
Yeah, I'll throw it just, up to 49,000 or something.
Yeah.
That's fine.
So, I so move that we allow 49,000 for the RIT bag replacements.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Right? All right, looks like you got your money.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it, guys.
Okay. And so we have completed both the action items, and we have no new items. We are now to management update and information items. Back to you, Aaron.
Great. Yeah, I have just briefly want to share some good news on recent bid opening. As you may recall, one of our last meetings, I came to you to talk about the McKay Playground Improvement Project, and we were nervous. We were trending high on our estimate, and looking like we may not have enough money for the project. But at the time, we wanted to wait until we got the bid. I think we didn't have for additional funding. And so I'm happy to report that recently opened bids. We had, again, a really competitive bidding climate. There were 6 contractors that bid, and our engineer's estimate was just under 1.8 million. And the apparent low, which we are moving forward with awarding the contract, that came in at 1.2 million.
Wow.
That's gonna be North Sandiam paving. They also recently bid on another project that's not a bond funded project, but also a park project. And they came in well under the estimate there as well. So at least NSP is really eager to work with us.
What was the second?
Yeah, good question. The second one was Gelco. And they were actually, there was $12,000 difference between 1 and 2.
Wow.
On a $1.2 million project. So that's a very, very tight bid.
Can you say more about where the savings were compared to what you were estimating? In terms of.
Well,
The
so
bid broke down the different elements of the project. Is that right?
who's that from following your question?
I think he's looking at like what unique bid items were less expensive, so.
Oh, gosh, I'll be honest, I did not study the bid that closely. I think,
I reviewed the bid analysis. I'm trying to remember. Nothing stuck out. It was pretty much across the board. Usually when I look at those, I look for numbers that are higher on large quantity items, so they might be making adjustments in their bid to try to take advantage of a quantity that might increase. I didn't see any of that. But I don't remember anything that was like drastically low. It was just kind of across the board.
I mean, the thing I'm interested in knowing, and I expect you are too, is are we learning something about costs that can help inform what we're doing on the next project?
And we are adjusting our estimates every time that a new bid comes in. We aren't taking necessarily the low number. We're taking like an average of the low 3 or maybe the low 5 and using that to inform how we're going forward. We're also still being cautious just because, as Aaron was pointing out earlier, there's a lot going on. And I've actually been sort of surprised on what fuel cost is doing, everything else that we haven't seen those impacts yet. But the longer these things go on, the more likely we'll see those things.
yeah, we use, this project is similar to the Gear Park project that bid a year ago. So we were able to use a lot of those numbers for our this new estimate. And so I'm honestly shocked that they came in as low as they did, because we thought we were using some pretty competitive numbers at the time. So that's good news. And as a reminder, we had looked at doing some bid alternates. So we had pulled out some work that we, in case the bids came in higher. So this 1.2 includes all the alternate work. So we'll be able to.
That's great.
I think like you were pointing out, Councilman Nishioka, we've been seeing a lot of competition. I think we've got steady work on the table with this bond program, and that's a really good thing for us. And contractors recognize that. Our staff has done a good job of getting the jobs out at the right time of year when the contractors are working. And so we've seen a lot of bids these last couple of years, and that's paying
And
off.
these are fairly local. I mean, are they not?
Yeah,
Yeah.
we'll talk about that here in a minute, but.
Well, I think you want to talk about the outreach you guys have done just for the bid opportunities too.
Sure, yeah, we meet with the chamber every year, as Mike knows, we hold a contractor forum that the chamber graciously hosts and helps us publicize so that we can talk about projects that are coming up and just make sure they're on everybody's radar for bidding.
This is somewhat a really intelligent question, but I'm going to ask. Petroleum prices affect pavement? When, yeah, okay.
Yeah.
I just wanted to,
Yeah,
so I'm surprised,
Yeah.
even more surprised. Because it would seem like
where it comes from isn't always necessarily from overseas for the
Got it.
petroleum that makes
Okay.
asphalt. And that's only one small component of these projects. It's significant, but it's small. I've been more worried about the price of diesel just because that impacts everybody's equipment, every vehicle. But
Yeah.
again, that is only the most expensive part of a dump truck is the driver, right? The labor. And so it's incremental, but I expect we're going to start to see those things.
I think just
creep
a
into
little
this. But if there's not a lot of other work out there, then we're in a good position for competition.
well, I'm glad my question didn't sound unintelligent.
No,
We bid a project or opened a project on Tuesday at the airport that included some paving, and the low bid right was 130 a ton,
And it had.
which is higher than like
Okay.
we've paid as low as 60 a ton.
Oh, wow.
Back in-
So like, what was it a year from now?
well, I think like some of our R&R jobs, even like the last couple, we were seeing between 80 and
Okay.
Wow, so it has increased
And
it.
it hadn't been that.
And is that for the pavement for the runways? It was that, yeah. That might creep with that. Well, we have the grants on that.
Yeah, it's a federal grant project, and the bid was still actually
Still within-
under the.
Yeah, it was
so
Okay, cool.
even though
I
that.
thought we were gonna see in that in the general fund.
it was not-
Okay, good. All right.
That's all I have.
Any other questions on the park update?
No.
Cash flow, Alan.
Yeah, so just a couple of management reports here to close things out. So this is the cash flow report that you have is a little different than the ones we've shared in the past, and it's actually one we put together for the sale of the bond. And so I thought you all might like to see it, but it's really just, it's very simple, right? It's what the budget is, what we spent to date, and what we're projecting. And in most cases, if the project is ongoing, we are projecting spend out unless we know something is very drastically different. In some cases, you'll notice our project managers cash flow is off by $25,000 or $13,000, but essentially that means we're intending to spend all the money. Where I think what this, or at least that's what we're planning for, where I think this is nice to see is projects that are now closed out or complete. We're able to show where we are in relation to budget. So the top of the first page, the three projects that are closed out, some modest savings with each one of those. At the bottom of that page, some decent savings with the transportation projects that we've closed out. A reminder, the first one there on page 1 at the bottom, 2024 pavement R&R. We did make a premium ask for that project that was granted by council. I think it was $600,000. And so we wound up with $350,000 in savings. So that'll go back to the premium bucket according to the policy that you all have recommended. But the rest is just savings from the project. So we're building up some savings in each one of these categories that gives us flexibility for some of those future uncertainties that you were asking about. So this just lists out the whole program. I think you might have had a typo in the fire stations and equipment because the number that Brian was saying is exactly 1 million more than what he's saying here. So I'll double check that. And you'll notice maybe the grand total comes to over 308 million. That's because there's some premium included in those budget numbers. And I think the Civic Center might also have just looking at that number. So that's why it doesn't come out to the exact 300 you might be expecting.
Okay.
But anyhow, just sort of a snapshot of where we are. Still early in the program, right? There's only a handful of projects that are in closeout or completion, but as the pie chart showed earlier, there's a lot that are in progress right now. So this will become more and more useful tool.
Is there maybe this is for Courtney maybe, or is there any sort of plan to communicate? Like, hey, we're a third of the way through, look at all of this work that we've done?
Yes.
I think that question was welcome based on your.
Yes.
Sent to the PIO and they line up.
Yes.
That's right.
And now we have capacity to do just that. Yes, of course we should.
Yeah, and we're also working on sort of related but different a release that's going to come out very soon about everything that's going into construction this year. So
Perfect. I was
that's
gonna,
coming up.
Yeah.
I think that's good because and I'm sure you guys, this is your life. You get people who are like, well, we paid for all this stuff, we voted for all this stuff, and it didn't happen, like, they're saying this 2 months after the election. So it's good to remind them that, hey, look, this was a 9-year deal, and it'll actually, the construction will go on a little bit further than that, I'm sure, but it's a 9-year deal, we're 3 years in, look at the things that's very helpful to remind people.
I asked Josh just last night about the anticipated 10-year bond, how long, and it was like, some of the things wouldn't be completed until 33. So it's, really more like,
We'll see. I mean, hopefully, if we continue to get bids that are lower, for a while.
might be able to move forward.
The 2008 Streets and Bridges bond, we were able to add lots of projects to that. And depending on the economy, we'll be able to do maybe something similar. We'll see.
So to build on that, that was exactly what I was going to ask. I would love to see bold and wide information about projects that are completed, projects that are in process, especially if they're around the parks in particular or traffic.
Sure.
I think those are all really impactful for people to understand, oh, this was part of the project and I now see the work is getting done, or that was in the project, in the bond, and I see the work is completed. And it just, it helps build the perception to people that, you know, their tax dollars are being used responsibly and providing what we promised. So I would really love to see that. And then keep building on it when, you know, like, we've completed all of these projects and now we're gonna be doing this. I think it would be really helpful.
I guess just along those lines, I think we just released the Crooked House Playground resurfacing. We allocated some funds, and that just reopened today or this week or something. But just
Yeah, I saw the pictures, yeah.
That's when we learned impact attenuation or whatever.
Yes, that's exactly right. It looks cool. Pictures.
Thank you.
I'm gonna go over there and jump off some stuff and see what it is.
Yikes.
I think my kids over there.
Yeah, and watch them jump on. Yeah.
It's a wrong is full of it or not.
Yeah.
Designed for 50-year-old Ds.
Oh. Any other questions? Over the. So let's see, local vendor, local vendor?
Yeah, local vendor report is right behind the capital report that you all had. It's updated and there's lots of details here about all the different contracts for each project. I always flip to the back page, but what I want to point out on page 1, just for reference for the back page, is the $30 million contract for the Civic Center. That's in yellow on the right-hand side of the very first box. That is the one of 3 contracts that have not gone to the local contractor, but it's a huge number. So when you look at page 4, the awarded projects that are of contract awards that have gone to consultants and contractors. The contractor one is kind of the one I always focus on just because that's the bulk of the spending. And we're 20 million to local Marion Polk County based contractors and 33 million to all in-state Oregon contractors. And like I said, the vast majority of that is that one contract for the Civic Center. And we did not get a local team proposing on that job. So if you take that out, we're at 82% local.
So wonderful.
There's only been 2 other contracts that haven't gone to a Marion firm, but that big one drags the percentage down. But still overall, of all the contracts we've awarded, consultant and contractor, we're almost right at 50-50. And again, it's one big contract that makes a difference. So we'll keep doing the outreach efforts that Josh referenced, and let folks know so that all of our local contracting community is aware and try to put a bidding radar. I think it's, as long as there's uncertainty with other sectors, that's going to be money or effort well spent by us.
Do we have data on just that one contract? How many subcontractors are?
Yeah, we can pull that together and bring it. I know they worked hard on some outreach there to bring in some locals in there, and there are a few, but not as good a success as we had on some of our past.
Questions? All right, well, Josh, do you have anything else or I think we don't have any continuing business. Was there anything else that you or anyone else wanted to bring up?
I like to say I think that was plenty to cover for today.
It was a very productive meeting, and it looks like we're getting to adjourn early. So I will call the meeting adjourned. Thank you all very much. Appreciate your